day, Bob, just for the hell of it.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I'm Saeed Khan, and I can say with a certain level of confidence that we have a higher viewership than the Melania documentary, which grossed £111,000 in the UK this week. So
what?
Just to give you an indication, £111,000.
That's all?
That is all.
Huh. Because it
And
did
you know how
fairly
expensive
well.
£111,000 more than it should have gotten.
It did fairly well for a documentary in the United States. So.
Well, I think it was rigged, as it were.
Yeah, rigged.
Those seats were bought in bulk and nobody went.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
3 busloads of seniors in Cleveland. The New York Times
Right.
a little story on that.
Right. Come on.
Yeah, a bus. It's like they go to see paint dry if they could. So.
Were these buses that said ice high on the sides there? Well, we are joined by 2 of our 3 attorneys right now, Joel Sklar and Bill Seikaly, labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. Good morning to you too, sir. Ira Todd. Good morning to you, Regina Enns. It is so great to have people who would rather be here than the 11:45 Melania at the AMC Mound or wherever it is. Well, we had another tranche of documents. Is that right, Nancy? Tranche?
I would call it a tranche, I guess.
Okay, yeah. It is a tranche of supposedly millions of documents relating to the Epstein files, and yet Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche came out. That's it, or in the very immortal phrase of Roberto Duran, no mas, even though that means that 50% of the Epstein files remain unreleased under the pretense of redactions and protecting the so-called victims. But it seems that given the fact that some of the actual female victims' names were released, one has to wonder what the administration considers to be the real victims, which look like many people of this world's ruling class, and particularly a man by the name of Donald J. Trump. What struck you in some of the revelations over the past week regarding the Epstein files?
What struck me, that there were redactions of that did not seem to be called for, redactions of people sending some of these emails. I think there's a couple of them that are very disgusting. Stuff like your littlest girl was very naughty last night, and there's one about some Brazilian girl arrived and she's just exactly what I was looking for. And it's like, why are these people's names redacted? I mean, I thought the whole point of this was to expose these folks.
Well, speaking of arrivals, we have attorney Steve Fishman joining us too. Hey, Steve. Bill.
I find the excuse that they used for that, Nancy, to be especially repugnant. They claim, of course, you can't look at this to prove it, that these are former victims that became enablers, and that was the basis for the redaction. Of course, in literally hundreds and hundreds of other cases, they revealed the names of victims and said, "Oops, oh gee, sorry,
our bad." Yeah.
So I'm not buying any of this myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big conspiracy theory kind of guy, but man, do they feed into this stuff?
They do, but I found that I didn't know that Jeffrey Epstein had a micro penis. that was shaped like an egg?
It wasn't a micro penis; it was an egg-shaped penis.
And I thought it
Not
was lemon. I thought it
micro.
was lemon shaped, which
Lemon
also,
shaped.
yes,
That's for more.
which
Um,
also is the description given about Harvey Weinstein's.
Right. Something's, I don't know what's going on with the
Ooh.
lemon. Okay. So, but what I did find shocking, and I would believe it because Trump has no depth and no bottom, was allegations that he was involved in a murder. Allegations that, he had raped or had sex with underage women, that one had become pregnant, that the child was born alive and then tossed in Lake Michigan. Whether or not these are true and insane, or just insane theories, who knows? But I do know if it was the shoe was on the other foot, there'd be Q all over this shit.
Yeah.
Including Trump in this, in this murder. But it was an amazing allegation to read, and it had not been redacted, and then it was redacted, and then it was returned. I just found it fascinating when I read it. It's like, I could accept him. I could see Trump doing anything he needed to do whatever the hell he wants to do.
I think
Robin Leach apparently strangling a 9-year-old girl.
Yeah.
It's clear if you live in the world, as Nancy and I do, what the opinion of the opinion of them as us, as the opinion of women. There's a couple things that we're good for, and these weren't women. These were, and then they were. I mean, if half of the stuff that I read was even close to true, there were times I just had to put my phone down and walk away. It's so bad, and young boys as well. These are guys so jaded and so wealthy and so entitled that they could just use them as any kind of toy that they felt like, and then you just throw them away, and then to say that they were victims, but now they were enablers. They're still victims. The ones that survived are going to be victims of this for the rest of their lives. There's just no getting away from this. It's horror beyond horror.
And threats from Trump's golf country club security that you're going to be buried with the rest of them being there too. So, Allan. Oh, sorry.
I want to say, anybody who's done freedom of information, when you get back lots of documents, you'll sometimes get pages and pages of redactions, just blank pages, and with no oversight, and with the crookedest FBI and attorney general that we've ever had, and of course, Trump's always going to be protected on that. We're never going to see the actual documents unless I guess there was some talk about an oversight for a judge appointing someone as an oversight for all this stuff. But as long as Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are in charge, we're never going to see the true true story here.
I will say this, and this is just it may be the fact that my imagination is too limited. But there were some of the worst things were stories that came in via the tip line, the FBI tip line. And and we all know, I think if you are familiar with law enforcement, there's always some crackpots that will call into a tip line and tell an outrageous story that either, out of spite because they, hate Donald Trump or whatever. And some of the ones that I read were giving me very Rolling Stone or Rape on Campus vibes, just this is almost too depraved to be true. But the stuff that was already there, that is, I think we can all acknowledge absolutely is true, is bad enough. I mean, it's
right.
We don't need to embroider it. It's disgusting. And I was thinking about this a lot yesterday because I was trying to write a difficult letter and I kept being distracted by the Epsteins. And I was struck by, we're always told there's like this whole mythology around sex trafficking, that you're supposed to look for the girl who's, much younger than the man that she's in the company of, and she's sullen and she doesn't talk. And it's like, thank you. You just described my teenage daughter when we traveled together. That was, but these, found the worst thing about that is these girls in these photographs, at least what you could see from their body language, you couldn't see their faces, was how they were completely into it. They were, Bill Clinton or Donald Trump would have his hand around their waist and they'd be leaning in, and there were some unredacted faces in there that you could see that they were just smiling. And it's like something even worse than just straight up, taken the movie type of sex exploitation was going on there. They were convinced. I mean, I'm sure those girls, when they finally wised up to what had been going on, feel even worse now, because they feel like they were willing participants in it. But
the former
you take a girl from a West Palm Beach trailer park, and she's got an indifferent parent. She's perhaps been abused in the past by mom's boyfriend or whatever, and suddenly here's this guy in a mansion who's slipping her a couple hundred 2C notes and saying shh, and that probably seems like a better deal than she was getting back in the trailer park. So it's so depraved. I'm sorry.
The former Duke of York on all fours over a girl.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Bill,
it's like put up with this for 10 minutes and then you can go back to living the mansion life. But anyway, go on.
Bill.
I think Nancy's I've done, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 of these kinds of cases involving young girls.
Yeah.
The only thing that I disagree with that Nancy or Barb said, this is not just limited to people with money. This is a serious cultural problem. And when I read through this, I saw patterns, and I agree. I saw a couple, and I didn't read everything, obviously. I don't have time. But when I was reading through emails and such, and one of the things, I saw a couple things that I questioned, but there's a pattern here. There's a pattern of we're insulated. This is the boys' club.
Yeah.
And this is the sex club, and it's okay. It's just okay to do this. And people have asked me, why do they send emails? For the same reason Charles Pugh did text messages. They feel like they're immune.
Right.
This is part of the culture.
People don't think about it. People, we do have a little video of how Trump is dealing with
CNN's
this.
Caitlin Collins admirably pressed on for an answer about the Epstein scandal, and that's when Trump got testy.
But what would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten justice?
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. She's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile.
Well, I'm asking you about survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, Mr. President.
Because she's not a sociopath? She's asking you about notorious sex trafficking ring that the world's wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to.
When are the men in the White House Correspondents Group? When are they going to stand up to being their colleagues being called piggy and asking them to smile? When is that? I really want to know when that's going to happen. I'm so fucking sick of that. Oh my God.
Me too.
I completely agree, but I think that the bigger problem that we have is the way that Trump constantly makes sure that nobody trusts anything that anybody says. Well, right. Trump lies, but so does everybody else, and this has become normative, and it's got to stop, or we're a third-rate nation very, very quickly. We may already be there. It may be too late.
Well, one of the things I noticed, Bill, is that in Britain, it's Andy and Mandy. It's Andrew, and it's the former ambassador to the U.S., Peter Mandelson. They're covering more, interestingly enough, Mandelson, and you don't hear as much about Andrew, at least when it comes to the prime minister. So the ruling class is still protecting the royals, or the now kicked out royals. I actually found some other aspects of the Epstein files fascinating, and to me, it was almost like the Enigma machine during World War II and cracking the code. There were emails about Epstein brokering with the UAE ambassador to the U.S., Al-Otaiba, getting the UAE and Israel to attack and invade Qatar in 2017, when there was that blockade for 3 years that Qatar endured. Dennis Ross was involved. Elliot Abrams, hawkish neocon were involved. And it was Rex Tillerson who actually was the grown-up in the White House, the Secretary of State, who says, this is insane. You cannot invade Qatar. Our CENTCOM is there. We service the Fifth Fleet. Former Mossad chief Ari Ben Menashe actually saying, yeah, we trained him. He was an asset, Epstein was, for Israel, and he was passing information on to Putin. We not only do we know this, we can verify it because we were there doing it. And it's astounding that that's not getting covered as well. And I think we were talking about this before we went on the air. Yesterday, I was watching CNN in the morning. From 8 a.m. to 8:10, first 10 minutes were about NBC's Today Show's Savannah Guthrie's mother being seemingly abducted. They didn't talk about the Epstein files until 8:48 in the 8 o'clock hour. So there is a lot of media neglect. Media saying these are underage women. No, they were girls.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot. There's a lot that needs to be, I think,
but isn't this the fundamental problem in the Trump era? What do you cover?
Right.
I mean, he's talking about taking over the elections in Democratic areas, nationalize the elections. By the way, I think my prediction was the first one to absolutely come through.
You are correct. You were the first one to say that.
So nobody, I don't think people are covering that enough. I agree with you. They're not covering the Epstein file enough, but he creates so much chaos. We don't know what to do. And you know what? When he starts taking over, here's my next prediction. Nance, write it down. My next prediction is, as soon as they move to take over the elections, nationalize the elections in at least Democratic areas, we're going to be at war either in Central America or in Asia. One of those two places, things are going to blow up, because that will be the great distraction. And he's a master at this.
Absolutely.
Nancy sent me a little cartoon that he put up on
Truth Social.
And it's like, what does it take for people to see what this guy is? I always say, and I've used this analogy before. It's like watching Wheel of Fortune with only one letter missing, and people still go, no, he's not a racist. No, oh, come on. You're
I think it's funny. And they're
They
racist.
agree with him. They agree with him. Anybody see this report on CNN?
This is on his,
Truth Social. It was the to be sure, it was at the end of a video that was mostly it was a conspiracy video about the 2020 election, and it's got some guy talking, well, we found, the Michigan investigation found this chip from Taiwan and blah, 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 and then at the very end, there's this. And apparently that is a frame or a snippet from a longer video that was made with AI and featured all of these Democrats as animals and him and Trump as a lion. And then they all bow down. I think it's kind of like the Lion King sort of idea. Yeah, but the fact that they picked, apes for the Obamas was, shall we say, telling. I wonder what he was on about.
Well, on this bill about nationalizing elections, I mean, Steve Bannon has really been kind of leaning hard into this. Trump apparently just shifted back a little bit by saying there's no formal plans to deploy ICE at polling booths and precincts.
It has nothing to do with the Project 2025.
Yeah, exactly. So you have that. Well, on the subject about media and how media covers things, Allan, I know you used to work for them. The Washington Post, Jeff Bezos announced that they have cut really overnight 1/3 of their staff, including wiping out their sports and their metro divisions. I mean, a complete neutron bomb. And I mean, you figure any one of the cosmetic surgery procedures on his wife, Lauren Sanchez, could have probably paid for, I don't know, the salaries of how many journos. I mean, to me, it sounded like Oscar Schindler, with the surgery. I could have saved 5 more journos. But anyway, tell us a little bit about what you're hearing.
I mean, it is devastating. I mean, I'm seeing a lot, I actually talked to one friend who I helped her convince her last summer to take the buyout and stuff. Others are like busy. I've texted them and stuff like that. But you see all over social media and Facebook and X and LinkedIn where people from the Post are just talking about how heartbroken they are, and it's just so, and somebody, a friend, Daron Levine, says, "Oh, it's not really Bezos. Can't blame Bezos," but it's like, look, there were 200 after he killed the endorsement, right before the endorsement was going to be published of Kamala Harris. He killed it. I think totally now 250,000, 300,000 subscriptions have been canceled. So he's complaining that, they've been losing $100 million a year. That in itself is probably about 30 million to $40 million just in subscriptions and stuff like that. I mean, it's devastating what he's done, and he's got billions of dollars in government federal contracts. He knows that Trump will go after him if he continues to push back. So he's destroyed the paper. He's had so many people have quit. It's very similar to what we're seeing in the Justice Department, where people are quitting rather than, continuing to be part of a very ethically compromised thing. To the credit, I mean, there's still some talented people left at the Post, but you can't keep chopping and chopping. The sports department, I looked yesterday and I see they're running wire stories, trying to make it look like they have the byline on top. At the very bottom, it says by Associated Press. People are really, really angry. The only thing I can say on a positive note is, I mean, they've taken the Metro section, which Don Graham really prided the Washington Post as being a national paper, but also heavily covering local news. They're down to 12 reporters now on the Metro section, which is insane. And I think what's going to happen is going to leave it's a void that's going to be filled, hopefully by somebody. I know there's all this talent from the Washington Post that's been laid off. Hopefully somebody will come in and knock the shit out of Bezos. And, if it's the end of the Washington Post, hopefully there's something better that comes from it.
I mean, need we remind people that it was the Metro section that exposed Watergate when Bob Woodward was covering a bundle burglary
at the Watergate, office complex. So yeah.
But is this going to be a domino effect, do you think? I mean, is this going to be under the excuses of AI and budgets and ad buy that we're going to start losing a free press?
I mean, I think look, the New York Times figured out has become more robust. I think the New York Times will take this as an opportunity. When Bezos bought the Washington Post, he said, we don't need to be such a local paper anymore, which Don Graham grew up in D.C. He loved D.C. He loved the Metro coverage. And he came in and Bezos said, well, we don't need a distribution process like the New York Times. We have the internet now, so we can be the international paper that they are. And so they were competing on that. I would think the New York Times is, I know a lot of people in the New York Times are sad about this, and a lot came from the from the Washington Post. And so I hopefully it's not a trend, but I think in 2008, I was teaching journalism at the University of Maryland, and journalism was in a crisis at a crossroad, and I'd just taken a buyout. Like 130 people took buyouts at the Washington Post. And I asked the class, I said, how many of you regret going to journalism? A lot of them were seniors, and none raised their hand. And I said, you guys are like, you just bought a house like a week before Katrina.
In New Orleans.
Yeah. And I said, but, I think it'll bounce back. And I think what we're seeing is, all these alternatives, Huffington Post, Politico. You know, an interesting story about the Washington Post and Politico is that two reporters, Jim Vandehei and John Harris, were on the national desk of the Washington Post. Before they took a buyout in 2008, they pitched something similar to Politico for the Washington Post, and they said, nah, we're not interested. And then when they got the backing for Politico, the Washington Post was freaking out about it. I think Politico's done, it's a very legitimate publication. So I think, the Washington Post may die in darkness, as but I think there's going to be others who step up. In Baltimore, the Baltimore Sun, which used to be a fantastic paper, they even had, they had an Africa correspondent. They were a great newspaper, and they were in decline. And now we have the Baltimore Banner. A wealthy person has put up money to put together. So I think we're going to see that. Hopefully, I cross my fingers. So.
But this whole idea, Allan, about the fear that people have about Trump, apparently now he's saying that he's going to withhold federal funding to major refurbishment projects for Penn Station in New York City and Washington Dulles International Airport in Northern Virginia, unless they rename both of them after him.
This is why we have lawyers, and this is why we have courts. It's like, if we can't beat this back in a court of law, I don't know why are we bothering? Why don't we all just swim the river and go to Canada? I mean, this is just insane. This is, the racist cartoon, the weird address at the National Prayer Breakfast, where all this stuff is pointing to a person who is completely out of control and is surrounded by ass kissers. But it's like, we have to, is anyone fighting for this?
There's also his new vocabulary. And Allan, I think we got video of that.
Okay. Are you talking about the discounts?
We're talking about Maduro.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's been a month since U.S. forces captured Nicolas Maduro right out of his Venezuelan compound and sent him to Brooklyn to serve out his life as a barista in Bushwick. And if you're wondering how a military run by these two geniuses were able to pull off that operation, turns out they had a little help.
President Trump just told the New York Post that a secret new U.S. weapon was used in that operation that captured Maduro to shut down Venezuelan equipment. He said the discombobulator.
The discombobulator? Actually, I don't think our most advanced new weapons should have whimsical names. If I'm shot by a laser that liquefies my organs until they leak out of my eyes, I don't want to tell my family that I was dinky zoinked to death.
Nancy, you might also actually have a chance to get into the lawsuit. I mean, if I don't know how we could get standing for it, but apparently it looks like Trump has announced that the Donald J. Trump and John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington will be shut down for quote unquote renovations in order to get it up to what it really should be. I'm sure it's just a mere coincidence that it premiered the documentary for Melania. And by the way, people are wondering if that really awful cartoon that he's posting is because of envy, because apparently Michelle Obama's documentary on Netflix is just, as Mr. Foro Scratch is saying, is actually killing it in the ratings. And of course, he's into the ratings. But Trump is actually saying that he's going to strip the building down to the steel. I mean, this rather beautiful, very minimalistic, elegant building in Washington, right on the Potomac, is going to get gaudied in the same way that he's going to be.
They're going to add an octagon arch. Sure. Yeah.
And that arch, and that 250-foot arch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there anything that's going to be left in the nation's capital after he kind of does a barbershop gold gilding of the Washington Monument as well?
Well, this is why the midterms are so fucking important, and this is why he is so crazy about this, and why he's talking about taking over elections and everything. It's like we have to vote in numbers that cannot be denied, and the trends are all looking really good. I mean, I think there was another huge overperformance in a special election over performance by Democrats. Republicans are said to be freaking out about. I think it was a state senate. Didn't we talk about it last week in Texas?
We'll be talking about it right after the commercial break. If you'd like to go to that, Ellen.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
So I know last week feels like this week and vice versa because time is like an accordion, Nancy, but it is this week that the special elections were held in Texas. And the Democrats did actually quite well, both at the state and the national seat level. Taylor Remitt defeated Lee, wait for this name, Wambsgans. Wambsgans.
Yeah.
See, when you're not used to speaking native Maori, it just doesn't roll off the tongue like it does for Nancy. And so he defeated her in the Fort Worth based state Senate seat, even though she outspent him 6-1 and is dyed-in-the-wool MAGA. It also happened to be a district that Trump won by 17 points in 2024. And then there was a vacancy or an open seat to be filled until November after the death of the late Sylvester Turner, and Christian Menefee defeated Amanda Edwards in Texas 18, which is primarily in the city of Houston. So both at least riding out until November, another very crucial seat to narrow the gap for the Democrats in the U.S. House. And then the state Senate seat, which some are saying may be a shift in momentum. Also talking about the fact that in 2024, a large contingent of the Hispanic community in Texas, which is actually 25% of the population, voted for Trump, but now they might be getting a bit of buyer's remorse, or remorse de comprador. So.
You are funny.
So,
by the way, we do have a video about when we talk about Trump. You know, he announced the prescription thing. It's called Trump's RX or whatever.
Yeah.
And
the White House launched the official Trump RX website. You know, Trump made some kind of deal with the big pharmaceutical companies to launch a self-branded pharmacy. He promised to build a wall. Instead, he built a Walgreens. But it's exciting. According to Trump, his new site could lower the price of prescription drugs anywhere from 100 to a million to 2,000 to 400%.
We're going to get the drug prices down, not 30 or 40%, which would be great, not 50 or 60. No, we're going to get them down 1,000%, 600%, 500%, 1,500%, 300, 400, 500, and even 600%. 400, 500, and even 600%. About 654%, 500, 600, 700%, 400%, 500%, 600%.
Yeah.
These are people, and the people who believe that were homeschooled and and are the ones who have to tell this week, no, the guy Bad Bunny is not a foreigner. He's from Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico is part of the United States. I mean, they spend dollars down there.
Be investigated for treason for saying that, Nancy.
Yeah, I probably will be.
Well, Bad Bunny was born a U.S. citizen, but you know who wasn't? 2 out of 3 of Trump's wives. So
Melania.
There you go. But here's what's this actually kind of also provides clarification. Trump loves talking about the fact that he went to the Wharton School, which is at the University of Pennsylvania, but he didn't go for an MBA, which is really their prestigious school. He was there, got a bachelor's degree after transferring from Fordham University. You got to love the math skills. I can't imagine that Wharton undergrad and Wharton grad have such a chasm when it comes to remedial math skills of percentages. But if so, Steve, I imagine U of M Ross Business School is just going to now start getting a lot of defections in the transfer portal. So, but this
people are working in places like that.
Steve has his finger.
Sorry.
Steve, go ahead. Steve.
Let's go back to what you were talking about the elections, because there's so much pessimism just from what you see on a daily basis. But we really need to pay attention to something like that, particularly those two elections in Texas. I mean, you're talking about a 31% difference, right, from the 24 election to this latest election. And I really believe, and got to give Bill credit again, there's a goddamn good reason why they want to tamper with the elections. Because everywhere, I wouldn't be surprised if in Idaho that somebody came out and beat somebody, because people are sick to death of this crap. And I read a column yesterday, I think it was in the now defunct Washington Post, but I can't remember for sure, where they talked about that Trump keeps talking about as if he really has a large base of support. And his base of support is bupkis, 35%, 36%, 32%. We have to keep that in mind. I mean, obviously, we all have to do whatever we can to advance our positions, but let's not be so desperate. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word. There's a lot of good stuff going on too every time there's an election. So we should keep that in mind.
Very true.
They call it hair on fire. In Minneapolis, they have doubled and tripled. They're up to like 700% of people in the street. That's a joke. Of people demonstrating against ICE in Metro Detroit right now. They've got almost constant trainings to be in the ICE patrols run by the National Lawyers Guild and the ACLU and local groups, the MIGRA, and it is, it's not. And if you notice, because it's hard to keep up with the news, a lot of the Minneapolis news has dropped out unless something horrible happens, like they tear gas another 7-year-old.
Or when a MAGA January 6th convict who was pardoned, Jacob Lang, knocks over an ICE sculpture that said prosecute ICE, knocked it down so it said pro ICE. He has been arrested and charged with a felony. But
so, I mean, there is a lot of pushback, and Steve's absolutely right. And I mean, it is hard to be optimistic. So I don't think optimism is the right word, but we're pushing back pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. I think, Bill, by the way, 700% works for increases. You just can't go ahead and take away. So that's where you got it wrong. But Bill.
I want to follow up on what Steve said. It's not that I disagree with Steve. I've learned not to. But I do want to point out that it's difficult when you're talking about this 30 or 40% that supports Trump, has control over the federal government, has control over the military, has control over the levers of government, and has control over Congress and the Supreme Court. That's what makes it so dangerous. If it were just numbers, we were having an election, a free and fair election today about what was going on, I would agree with Steve. The problem is that these people are in power. They have institutionalized this racist agenda. And what's going on right now is they have control. And if they take over the elections, if they, quote, nationalize these elections, this is going to be a very dangerous time, because I'm not sure what the alternative will be of hitting the streets a lot harder than we did in the 60s and 70s.
Never mind. Bill, but there's also a bigger nefarious situation going on here. Yes, the counterpoint is that elections are run at the state level, but you see efforts being made at the state level at the highest echelons to go ahead and game the system. For example, Utah Governor Spencer Cox is looking to has signed the bill to expand the state Supreme Court as the redistricting ruling is looming. So you see these efforts happening from within the system, which are just downright frightening.
But we can deal with that. We can deal with that if the Constitution is followed. I mean, we talk about nationalizing elections. This is one of the Constitution is written in very broad terms for a particular reason, but not this issue. it's very clear that the elections are supposed to be run, are to be run by the state. I mean, it's crystal clear. And he just ignores it. I mean, this is not a question of whether or not we may have a constitutional crisis. When he talks about nationalizing elections, it is a constitutional crisis.
Yep.
By the way, breaking news, just to let you know, White House press secretary who has decided to take it upon herself to single-handedly populate the white demographic in this country, so there's not going to be a demographic singularity in a few years and going minority and majority, has come out with a statement regarding that Obama meme. She said, quote, "This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public." She said this to Politico. Actually, Caroline, there were no gorillas in The Lion King. There was only Rafiki. So I think it probably wasn't a Lion King video.
I didn't know you were such a Lion King expert, but I didn't remember that you do.
About this outrage.
You know, on important things, it's not just the Middle East all the time there, Nancy.
That's the one thing about like having an adult child. I mean, I keep reading about Zootopia, and
I can't stand to see that.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
It is.
Yeah. And by the way, that was an orangutan on Barack Obama, a gorilla on Michelle Obama. The orangutan is from Southeast Asia. It's not even anywhere near the Lion King. So, gosh.
Very good point. We're gonna call Caroline Levitt and say, and read that to her and make her respond.
I'm sure she will.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold her breath. You know, it's amazing how I'm noticing that so many of the topics that we discuss is a fertile ground for Schmucks of the Week. So if any of you want to use one because you couldn't find one, feel free to do so. Former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick has apparently cut a secret deal to go ahead and repay the restitution since the courts have rebuffed him. Steve, I see you with a grin like the Cheshire Cat.
What's your question? Because I've had to answer this. I can't tell you how many times.
That's why. That's why I said Steve, and you could even fill in the question.
All right. So here's. I'm not going to try to fill in the question, but again, just so everybody, including our listeners and viewers, knows what happened was when you call it a secret deal. All three of us lawyers know there are things that are filed under seal. Okay. I suppose if you want to follow Rob Snell and the people from the media, we'll call it all a, quote, secret deal because it sounds like there's some shit in the game when that happens. I don't know why it was filed under seal. I don't know what things are in there that might have been either an embarrassment or something having to do with something that should not be out there in the public eye. But I do know this. If Judge Nancy Edmonds approved it, and she allowed it to be filed under seal, I guarantee everybody that's listening to this thing, there's nothing funny or screwy about it. What happened is two things, it seems to me. Number one, for the first time in all of these years, Kilpatrick finally acknowledged, yeah, I owe the money. That's the first time he's ever done that. You guys all know that. On 14 different occasions, he's come forward while he was locked up, after he was locked up. I don't know anything. It's all bullshit, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing, whatever it is that they agreed to, I'm not saying that he's going to wind up paying off everything, but I think I've told you guys on this show before, in federal court, something like 92% of restitution payments are not repaid, okay? So the second thing is, whatever it is that's a deal, whether it's going to be the pension, whether it's going to be for money that his mother left him when she passed, they're going to get some money, okay? So we can sit here and go crazy because it's, quote, under seal, but it's better to have a situation where he acknowledges that he owes the money and some of it is getting paid back than it is to just sit here and piss and moan because it's sealed. So
I wrote a story, and I agree with that. When I wrote a separate story. I went into the court document and read it and stuff like that. I mean, to describe it as a secret deal is not correct there, and I did not include that in there. It was under seal. The judge had mentioned and said apparently there were some financial things with Kilpatrick that were a violation of privacy laws or whatever, and that's why it was kept under seal. I mean, the chances of him paying that off, that whole thing off, are not good. I mean, he was paying previously before he was let off of probation. He was paying up to $180 a month. And I would not be shocked if it was not a lot. His pension is like, I think, $1,200 a month from the state of Michigan. And, you know, I don't know. And Steve, maybe you can explain this. His wife has a home under her business for $800,000 in Novi. Normally, you can't separate the finances when the feds are going after your money. But I don't.
Wait, say that again. Normally, you can't do what?
If the wife has money, you can't shove. You know, if Kwame owes money, you can't just shove money over to her and say we're protected. Am I correct? Generally,
no, not in the way you just said it. What you can't do, the opposite is what you can't do. If I owe a bunch of money, you can't go steal it from my wife unless she was part and parcel of whatever criminality I did. Okay.
Okay.
The reason, my guess is, and I don't know this, my guess is the reason for the settlement is that kind of stuff. Yeah, the government, this has been going on for years and years and years. Judge Edmonds has had, I can't tell you how many hearings about this different stuff having to do with Kwame. It never goes away. The reason that they agreed, but the government agreed to it, and for what I said before, in addition to him finally acknowledging he owes, you're getting a chance to get something and not have to deal with the issue you just raised. Is it his wife's? Is it his? Because you cannot take, for instance, if a house is to be forfeited, if the house is in both names, unless you can show the wife never contributed 50 cents to it, almost every case, the 50% of the house that's owned by the wife, you can't touch, no matter how much money the guy owes. So let's not get carried away with that either. We should all be happy as citizens that there's a deal where he admitted it and that some money is being paid. And let me just tell you one other thing, just so the public knows. The press loves to focus on that business that you just said, $160 a month. What happens in every case, unless someone has the entire restitution and for some reason paid it before they got sentenced, okay? Every single case in federal court where there's restitution, the judge is...
What? Why does this happen?
I will. Let me say something. I mean, it's interesting that in the last one of his last filings that Kwame had, he when he was asking to be relieved of any restitution, he said, "I accept responsibility," which he's never totally accepted responsibility for the guilt there. And he's always, you know, he went on the Today Show and said, "Oh, I didn't steal money and this is ridiculous," and blah, blah, blah. So he knew that Judge Edmonds would lose her shit if he said, "I really didn't do anything wrong." She'd be like, no, you're not. So he had to at least admit that. And now it is, he's been fighting this. He's been filing up till at least December. And he's been filing motions saying that he doesn't owe anything. And so this is a big deal. And I did reach out to him. I texted him and asked him for comment for the story. And he just said, I said, "You care to comment on this?" And he went, "Nope." Yeah. And so he's, finally giving in. But, he's got this movemental ministry. It's a virtual ministry. And sometime last year, he did a sermon and he was saying, the black men in Detroit have to step up and admit they're wrong and which I thought was interesting. So anyways.
Steve, you had your hand up.
No, I would just to conclude it, keep in mind, this is a deal that was entered into between the government and Kilpatrick. Judge Edmonds approved the deal. This was not her. I mean, she said 15 times how much he owes and blah, blah, blah. The government and Kilpatrick made a deal, and that's now the deal. And that's it.
Well, there was one other thing that broke this week, and that is 36th District Court Judge Andrea Bradley Baskin has been charged along with her father and two other Detroiters in an embezzlement scandal, allegedly involving a $300,000 guardianship fund in which she's alleged to have received $100,000 of it. Any updates on this from our esteemed lawyers? Yep, Steve?
I don't know if we're esteemed. We are veteran lawyers. We talked about that last week. We are not
Sorry,
allowing Nancy Derringer, a young woman like that, to be referred to as a veteran, and we're not called veterans. Okay.
The tattoo reminder hasn't dried yet, Steve. So all right, next one.
All right. So I thought we discussed this last week, but I'm not sure. I've read the indictment. I don't prejudge anybody based on what's in an indictment. But I can tell you this: if that stuff's true, this is some bad stuff. Whether she's a judge or not a judge, to steal from people who really, really need it, who are infirm, this is the kind of thing you go to prison for. And that's, quite frankly, what needs to happen if they did it. I'm not saying they did it, but that indictment does not read very well.
And her dad. I mean, it's interesting. She was running for judge, and the investigation went through, I think, July of 2024. She was elected in November to the judgeship. So I guess some people say, well, we wish we would have known before we elected her that she was under investigation for all this. But I guess the FBI tipped their hand.
I make no comment. I want to make this real clear. What I'm about to say isn't about the judge. However, I was involved not long ago, very recently, with one of the organizations that is being accused of misconduct. I got excoriated by the judge for raising the fact that what they did, what Tri-State Guardianship did, was improper. And they said, you're just raising this because they got caught up in an investigation. And the fact of the matter is that these organizations, these companies that provide conservatorships to a broad range of people are crooked. I mean, they just are. I'm sorry. I saw it in this case. I raised it to the judge. The judge told me that I was wrong and wouldn't do anything about it. The fact of the matter is they take advantage of these people all the time. Right. And the system, the entire system needs to be fixed. I'm glad that these two organizations are under investigation. I've spoken with the FBI about my case, but I'll tell you, the entire system needs to be looked at because there is absolutely no way that even an honest judge could be watching what goes on in these cases. And it's a serious problem because these are the most vulnerable people around.
And there's so many.
Oh,
there's the volume is
ungodly
huge.
number. An ungodly number. I mean, it's disgusting.
The saddest day is to go to probate court when you're seeing people get conservatorships and who they're getting conservatorships for and the stories, and it is tragic. Absolutely correct. It is absolutely tragic.
And I'm not even sure what the fix is. I mean, if you ever really want to get depressed, go spend a day in probate court and watch what goes on.
It's
because
awful.
The judges, even the most well-meaning judge in the area, couldn't possibly monitor what's going on. They're relying on these companies. And even when they appoint a guardian ad litem, this entire system is so corrupt as to need complete overhauling.
And I think, Bill, there's a case out in the west side of the state as well involving allegedly a friend of Attorney General Dana Nessels, Kent County and Grand Rapids. I think they brought forth the case. She wouldn't investigate apparently any further. I mean, so it seems like this is a systemic issue. Well, this Sunday, of course, is the apogee of the American civil religion. The Super Bowl is going to be played in Santa Clara, California, between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. I know this is looking for retribution for the Seahawks, but I found an interesting statistic that every time the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl, or every time they won so far, there was the election of a new pope. So I don't know if that's going to have any bearing now that we have Leo. So let's go ahead and see. But anyway, predictions about the Super Bowl, predictions about the ads, predictions about El Conejito Malo, i.e. Bad Bunny and his halftime show. Allan.
I think Seattle's a better team. We'll see Sam Darnold, their quarterback, is sometimes folded in the big games, but I think they're favored there. I think the interesting thing is Bad Bunny. Now, everyone's main man, Kid Rock, is doing an alternative show that's going to be
for Turning Point USA.
Yes.
And with Erica Kirk's, family values, because of course Bad Bunny couldn't possibly represent them. But let me tell you whether Bad Bunny is going to translate the following lyrics. Quote, young ladies, I like them underage. See, some say that's statutory, but I say it's mandatory. Actually, they don't have to translate it because it's not Bad Bunny. It's Kid Rock in his song, Cool Daddy Cool. So there are your family values that are there with the Turning Point or Turning Point USA folks.
And apparently she's pregnant. Did I get this right?
Usha is pregnant. I don't know about Erica, but I would love the irony of that one. Actually, there's a chance that JD Vance could conceivably, in my opinion, be the father of triplets. Erica's, Usha's, and a new couch.
I don't know if you guys, I was a couple minutes late. I am interested, and I'm particularly interested, those of you who read every single thing like Nance and Saeed, what is the story with Savannah Guthrie's mother? What do you make of this? I've never heard of anything like that. If you kidnap somebody, you generally want money and you try to get ransom. If you kidnap them just to kill them, it would make absolutely no sense. This is an 84-year-old woman. There's all these different things that people talk about, but people like Nance who look at all the stuff on the thing. Could you guys please tell me what is this? What's going on with this thing?
I'm as baffled as you are, Steve. We were talking about it a little bit before we went on, and you're right. I mean, it's like if you. I mean, it was like after the Jane Bashara murder here in Grosse Pointe, everybody was saying, well, it was a carjacking. It's like, no, in a carjacking, they take the car. They don't kill you. They don't strangle you to death first. So, I mean, nothing is adding up, and it's been a week now, and we're not hearing of a ransom demand. We haven't seen a body. I mean, there's either a large part of this that is not being revealed to us, or, like you said, it's just one of the weirdest crimes ever.
I did notice, though, Steve, that Tucson, Arizona is only 500 miles from Area 51. So take with it what you want from that. Barb.
I was gonna talk about the sport ball this weekend and just say that I have friends that have promised to call me when Green Day hits the stage. And I will watch that. I love Bad Bunny with all my heart. I think he's just an amazing musician, and he's a lot of fun, and he's cute as hell, and it makes right-wing people's heads blow up. He's like the perfect entertainer as far as I'm concerned. And then I'm going to go back to doom scrolling probably. So go sport ball.
But one of the sport ball teams will win. The ads will be a mixture of extremely clever and funny and lame. But I think that this is my big prediction. I think this is going to be the end of the cult of Charlie Kirk. I mean, this alternative halftime show is lame as shit. About 10 people are going to watch it. I mean, Kid Rock is like this wheezing husk of a. Would you stop showing that stupid graphic?
Who's going to broadcast it?
I mean, Bad Bunny is the biggest pop star now in the world. He is about the future, which is we're a multicultural country. That's what's great about it. Let him sing in Spanish. Who gives a shit? You're dancing to it. Nobody's, listening to the words and saying, oh, this is contrary to our family values. But I mean, one of the interesting things, and I read this somewhere else, somebody said, was the Charlie Kirk assassination was very shocking. And, a bunch of people got fired because they didn't grieve publicly grieve in an appropriate manner to please all these people. But between that ridiculous memorial with the pyrotechnics and the skin tight leather pants on the widow Kirk, and I mean, drag queens are doing Eric Kirk now, which tells you like what they think of him. It's really, there's one, I think her name is Erica Twerk, which is pretty funny. But it's I think once everything settles, Turning Point USA is just going to be a shell of itself.
This is what America First.
Well, that looks like a number one. Bill.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Guthrie story. Here's my theory. I have two theories. One, if she was kidnapped for ransom, the most likely scenario in my mind is they screwed up and she died. I mean, this is a very infirmed woman, and now what do you do? But the other possibility is the story that's going around that it could have been her son-in-law,
a family member, yeah,
a family member that was involved. But unfortunately, after 6 days, and this is heartbreaking, I think that the odds that she is alive are unfortunately growing smaller and smaller every moment.
It's got a Lindbergh baby.
And it is a real tragedy. It's probably more of a tragedy because it happens to so many people in this country, and they don't get this kind of publicity. I hope they find her, but I have.
They may not. No.
The other issue is I just hope it's a good Super Bowl. I hate the Patriots, so I hope the Seahawks win. But I hope it's a good game. I can't tell you how many Super Bowls I've been disappointed in just because they're terrible games.
So go Lions.
Yeah.
Go Lions. Wait until next year.
Do yourselves a favor. 1 o'clock, turn on the TV, CBS. Michigan plays at Ohio State basketball. I don't know if you guys watched last night. They edged Penn State last night by 41.
Given what's going on with CBS News, I don't watch CBS anymore. If I can find it another way, I'll watch. I just don't watch CBS anymore.
Okay.
The other question that I have is who's broadcasting the alternative halftime show?
It's probably going to be on YouTube or something.
It's the Charlie Kirk. It's a Charlie Kirk organization. Their YouTube.
Yeah, but where can you see it? That's what he's asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be.
Well, the one place you won't see it is on Deadline Detroit. So
yeah,
not watching
it. It is. I did a story on it. It's going to be
watch anybody who shows it.
Turning Point USA's YouTube channel, OAN News, TBN, for whatever the hell those all are. So there's a bunch of platforms it's going to be on.
Not watching TBN, that's easy.
Well, we have to announce some bad news, some sad news, and that is legendary Detroit Tigers pitcher Mickey Lolich passed away this week. I think, Alan, you've got a video of that.
McCarver pops up. Here's Freehan. Detroit, the new world champion. And look at Freehan picking up Lolich.
This is how Detroit will always remember Michael Stephen Lolich, Mickey to his many fans. The then 28-year-old left-handed starter who toiled in Denny McLain's shadow the entire 68 season surprisingly stepped up for his team when McLain faltered.
Go get 'em! Detroit Tigers! Go get 'em, Tigers!
That was great.
Any Lolich memories? I mean, he used to have a donut shop up in Lake Orion as well. Yep, Steve.
I remember that like it was yesterday. Freehan, was a U of M guy. Actually, would have been in NFL.
Why does that always happen for Steve?
We
need to get a booster for his internet.
We want to hear your story, Steve.
Three complete games in the 68 World Series.
And he hit a home run.
Yes.
He hit right-handed. I can't remember which game 2, game 5, or game 7.
Game 2.
He hit a homer. The only home run he probably hit in his whole career.
Yes, his only major league home run. They just lobbed it over, thinking the hitters can't, pitch.
Right.
And he hit it over the fence. It was his only major league homer.
Had the DH rule been implemented?
No, way before the DH.
This is 1968. Damn it.
Okay. Got it. Just checking. I got to the U.S. in 75 when the DH rule was in place. Barb.
I was in Catholic grade school at the time, and I don't know if you know this, but nuns love baseball. Nuns love baseball. So at Christ the King Elementary on Grand River, right by 6 Mile Road, we had TVs from the AV room brought into every classroom, and we watched the games. And it was just the coolest thing. And we would draw little posters supporting the Tigers. And it was exciting. My best friend loved Bill Freehan, and I loved Denny McClain, which shows until I met the lovely Barb Ingalls, I had bad taste in men. But it was really, it was cool. And the city just went crazy. I wasn't old enough to go driving around honking the horns. Like my sisters all piled in a car, and I had to stay home. But it was the coolest thing. It was just like this wave of joy went over the city, and it was that was great. So rest in peace, Mickey Lolich.
Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I was 16 years old, and we skipped a lot of school during that pennant race and during the World Series. It was a time, as Steve said, to remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, it was just a big deal. When we were down at the game when we won the pennant, everybody, if you'll remember, went out onto the field. I dug up a part of the outfield and took it home, and it grew in my parents' yard until my mother died in 2005.
Wow.
That's cool.
So Bill, which major league athlete then rolled his ankle in that divot and ended his career?
I have, by the way,
spent a lot of time cleaning up that field.
I have a piece of the wall from Tiger Stadium when they tore it down.
That's cool.
Well, I was a child in Columbus, Ohio at that time, so I have nothing to say about the Tigers, but I will say that we need more Mickeys in the world. Have you ever noticed that all the Michaels now are called Michael? Then you have to call them Michael, and if you call them Mike, it's Michael. It's Christopher. It's, we need Mickey. Mickey is a great diminutive for Michael, and we need more Mickeys in the world. So that's my only comment.
I have a son who's a Michael, and I call him Mike, and I call him Mickey.
Good for you. Well, you're dad, though, so you can do it. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, you're on mute.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
There you go. I remember living in New York in 1977, and apparently this was when we got rid of Tom Seaver to the Reds. We got rid of Rusty Staub to the Tigers, and we got Mickey Lolich. And Mickey Lolich back then, I mean, sadly was sort of past his prime, but he was still great to watch play tennis. To pitch for the Mets. So that was really great. All right, Alan, let's go to the last segment.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
Okay, Joel, since you're taking center square, who's your schmuck?
I got to go with Kid Rock. When I read, those lyrics, it's just so Kid Rock, and he's such a poser, and it's just ridiculous. He's always a schmuck. He's certainly my schmuck of the week. And I want to give a shout out. There's a singer-songwriter, Jesse Wells. I don't know if anybody's heard of him, but he has wonderful songs that are right on current events. He's just a brilliant kid. And Jesse Wells, I just would advise that to anybody out there. He's produced himself, and he's just remarkable. So listen to him.
Yep.
He's a new Dylan in many ways.
I love it.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Praise. All right.
I
Barb.
haven't heard.
Arkansas.
He's look on YouTube. It's all over the place. He's wonderful. My schmuck this week is Tim Wahlberg, who is a loathsome piece of shit, but he wrote a letter to Jocelyn Benson on the 4th about how illegal immigrants are voting in elections, and we have to turn over all of our voting data to the government, who won't misuse it at all.
Oh, no, not at all.
And I mean, and if you know anybody that lives in Tim Wahlberg's area, he doesn't show up to his town halls. He doesn't answer phones. He's like the most invisible man until John James came along, who coincidentally signed the letter with Tom Barrett, Bill Huizenga, Lisa. Yeah. and Lisa McLean, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
There you go.
Oh, that's funny, Jill. So yeah, Tim Walberg, and then everybody else in the Trump administration, because they're all just making me sick.
Jill, one of our viewers, Jill, when you were coloring the mimeographs, did you sniff them before and really get you, in the mood?
That was like an early exercise in like huffing. Yeah,
that was pre-model glue for me. That was my gateway. So.
I drew a cardinal with its wing broken on a crutch with a black eye and a tiger dancing behind it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I wish I still had it.
Steve.
I don't have one schmuck. My schmucks of the week, and I haven't read as much as you guys did in terms of the Epstein stuff, but my schmucks are a collective group of any of those guys who had anything to do with Epstein and any of those young girls, whatever excuse they're all giving today, all of them are schmucks. Anybody that had any business messing around with that guy, knowing who he was and what he did, and then referring in some of the few things that I've seen, oh, that young chick here, that young girl, all those guys are schmucks. They all are grown men, and they're messing around with young, not even almost teenagers, barely teenagers. They win the award for me easy. And then when we get done, you guys have to tell me where I have to look, because I want to read a lot of the stuff that Nancy and Bill were talking about. And I haven't seen it. I don't know where to get it.
All online.
Send it to you.
Okay.
It's
Bill. Yeah, I've got two. Pam Bondi, the best looking attorney general since Janet Reno, and and Gabby Gifford for what they're doing down in Atlanta. This is,
you mean Tulsi
Gabbard?
Yeah.
People who are involved in law enforcement should be sanctioning what they're doing down there. They can't keep their story straight. Who sent Gabby down there? This is the most offensive, anti-democratic action that I've ever seen. Yeah, they win.
I'm gonna disagree with you, Bill. I thought Eric Holder was one handsome devil.
Okay, the best looking. I know Eric, and I will tell you that what I intended to say was the best looking female attorney general since Janet Reno. I think Janet Reno wins because of her personality over.
All right. I was just going to say, I didn't want to get you in trouble with Eric now, but okay. Nancy.
This is a sad week. I looked at the news during the break, and apparently the ape video has been taken down and blamed on an as yet unnamed White House intern, which nobody in their right mind believes.
I'm sorry. What happened?
The racist the Obama ape meme has been taken down from Truth Social and blamed on a anonymous White House intern who supposedly posted it in the middle of the night, which is exactly when the president does his posting.
His name is Don Jr.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I was going to go with Bezos, but it's got to go with Big Daddy, and it's Trump himself. We're going to see something, I think, in the next 2 weeks that is going to be pretty disheartening for good Americans, which is people at the Olympics are going to boo our anthem, and they're going to boo our flag, and they're going to be giving us, American athletes the bird, and we have richly deserved it because this is who we have elevated to the highest office in the land. And
that's right.
They will
it's like completely justified.
So this is schmuck of the week, schmuck of the millennium, schmuck of forever.
So apropos that, Nancy, apparently the International Olympic Committee had to implore people yesterday, the day before, not to boo because couch copulator J.D. Vance and Patrick Rubio were at the proceedings, and they said, please don't boo the anthem. They actually had to make that request. So
they do it anyway.
Yeah, I would have done it anyway.
But
if I were an Italian.
they're saying that irrespective of booze, they're saying the outpouring of support for Denmark when they play the USA in hockey will probably set decibel levels in Cortina. So
sure, probably. So okay,
Allan.
One of them is going to be J.D. Vance for defending Trump for attacking Caitlin Collins for not smiling, saying, "Yeah, well, come on, that's I think he's disgraceful." And also Jeff Bezos and the editor of the Washington Post, Matt Murray, who's just been denigrating to a lot of the reporters and said nobody's reading your stuff and trying to justify, killing of the paper, and he's been instrumental in that as well. So those are.
I thought former editor Marty Barron's article was just brilliant on that.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And if you haven't seen Spotlight, he's played by Liev Schreiber. Phenomenal acting.
Marty was really the real deal. He wasn't perfect in his role there, but he was a great journalist, and they did a lot of great stuff. And he carried on a tradition of big editors of big papers. He was really outstanding in that way.
So I've got a few, and I'm going to cluster these. First of all, it's the Republicans who had issues with the Grammys. Senator Eric Schmidt saying that Billie Eilish should return her Grammy Award for denouncing ICE, and also for saying that no one is illegal on illegal land. Senator Marsha Blackburn, who really has her own issues facing campaign finance law violations for her governor's race in Tennessee, but saying, what was Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson doing at the Grammys, and there needs to be an investigation. She was nominated for Best Audio Book for her memoir, Lovely One, so she had a right.
Note that we didn't hear her talk about any conflicts of interest with Clarence Thomas or Alito or anything like that.
Right.
Ketanji, shows up to the Grammys is just insane. That would be a problem.
Elon Musk director Christopher Nolan has, quote, lost his integrity, unquote, for casting Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy in his upcoming epic, The Odyssey. Although Homer never described Helen's race, and of course, race is a social construct, and what the hell does it matter anyways? Former ICE henchman bully Greg Bovino for getting kicked out of a Las Vegas bar called Bottled Blonde, where he was asked to leave for public safety reasons, him and his gang. But I believe that the real reason was his own safety, because they didn't have a booster chair. But lastly, the U.S. government for using a private jet of a Trump donor to deport 2 Palestinians from Arizona to Tel Aviv. Gil Deezer, a longtime business partner of Donald Trump, friend of Donald Trump Jr., and member of the Miami branch of the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, allowed his prized Gulfstream to be chartered, then surreptitiously take 2 Palestinians out of the U.S. and to Tel Aviv. So all well-deserving schmucks. Well, thank you for another great around the horn, shall we say, for the week that was. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Steve, our veteran lawyers, along with, thank you, Barb. Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, and always with the last word, Allan.
Drive home safely.
Have a great weekend.